we're talking about. The phrase that's very often used, it's referred to as spiritual ascension, or the ascension process at this point, in terms of we are ascending from an old world that is in the process of death and decay, ascending to a new world. And this new world is a completely different world. It's a new world of light. It's a new world of spirit. Let me just say a quick word about the old paradigm world, because very often when we talk about one world that's coming to an end so that we can have an opportunity for the birth of a new one, let me just say a little bit about this old paradigm world so that we know what we're talking about. Our old paradigm world, our world of Western civilization that's been around for 6,000 years or so, this is the world we're talking about when we talk about a world that is in a state of collapse and that is in a world of decay. And the reason for this, again, and this is something that all the indigenous prophecies are telling us, and I started hearing this stuff in the 60s when I went through my whole hippie thing. So this isn't new information. This has been around for a long time. But the indigenous people have been telling us for a long, long time that our world, the white man's world, the world of the Western civilized world, cannot possibly survive. And the reason it cannot possibly survive is because it is a world that is built upon an unsustainable foundation. And basically what this means is that it's built upon a foundation of two primary things. The first thing that this world is based upon, the foundation of this world is based upon a foundation of matter, or materialism. And placing matter or materialism as the thing of primary importance in our lives, to the exclusion of our spirituality. So that's thing number one about our old paradigm world. Thing number two about our old paradigm world is our old paradigm world, the other part of the foundation of our old paradigm world is built upon that old bugaboo. The foundation is built upon that old bugaboo, control. In other words, endeavoring to control the world of nature, to control the world of Mother Earth, to control the forces of the natural world for the purpose of achieving a material outcome. And you can see that this basically is what Western civilization is all about. It's just an explosion of energy that's all focused on matter. One of my favorite examples of this is, and I feel it every time it happens, and I've felt it an awful lot here in Columbus, because I'm staying in a hotel that is in an area where this is certainly true, is being stuck in gridlock traffic jams. It seems like there's nothing that's more emblematic of being stuck in a world that is primarily, materially based, that being stuck in our cars that aren't moving and we're not going anywhere. And this is very much, one of the symbols of our old paradigm world that is in a state of decay. Now I know this scares the dickens out of a lot of people, because a lot of people have a lot invested in this old paradigm world, and that's where their comfort and security. This is basically the world that everyone's dreams have been. This is the world we were taught was the world that we were supposed to retire and everything was going to be wonderful. This is the world we were taught that was the world. And all of a sudden this world is being pulled out from underneath us. Now this scares the bejudas out of a lot of people. Rightfully so. One of the reasons why this time is scary for a lot of people is because of the intensity of the transformation that's involved. People tend to be very frightened by change, particularly massive change. And the kinds of change we're dealing with now, it doesn't get much bigger than the kind of change we're talking about in the context of the shift. However, let's emphasize very importantly that this is not something to fear. This is in fact a monumental blessing, an absolutely monumental blessing that we're in the midst of. Is it going to be challenging? Absolutely. We're in for some very, very challenging times ahead. We are all going to be challenged as individuals. We're all going to be challenged as a group. But this does not mean the end of the world. A woman came to my booth the other day and said something really interesting, and it was true. I don't know how many of you saw that terrible, terrible movie, the Hollywood movie 2012. I went to it. I felt obligated. Because I knew I'd be getting asked questions about it, because this is my area. And oh, what a horrible movie it was. But she said, in the movie 2012, did the world end? No, it didn't. The world went on just fine. Actually, there were people going off in boats at the end who knew it was going to happen and who had made arrangements, to survive everything. But the thing that's important about it, all this is the world is going to be just fine. The earth is going to be just fine. The earth has been through worse than this before. George Carlin had a really funny bit about this a few years ago. The world's going to be fine. We are the ones that are in trouble. And we are primarily, we, the human race. I don't mean we as individuals. I hate to lump everybody together like that. We are the ones who are in trouble. And when we talk about healing the earth, and when we talk about healing the sacred waters that have been so polluted, when we talk about healing the soil and healing the air with these chemtrails and everything, there's really only one thing here that really needs to be healed. And whenever I say prayers for healing, I don't say prayers to heal the waters. I don't say prayers to heal the air. I don't say prayers to heal the earth. I say prayers to heal the human heart. Because that is the source of this state of imbalance that we're in the midst of. Once we heal the human heart, once we heal the human spirit, everything will be fine. Everything will regenerate, everything will grow back, everything will be just fine. So that's the thing that needs to be healed. This does not mean the end of the world. It does mean the transformation of the world. And that's such a Carlos Barrios, another Mayan elder, made that very important distinction in an article that he wrote. It does not mean the end of the world. It does mean the transformation of the world. The world is going to change one way or another. And it's very, very important for us to be aware of that the direction of this change is basically in our hands. It's in your hands, it's in my hands as individuals. We have the fate of the planet in our hands. So it's up to us. And that's another very, very important aspect of the shift that we need to talk about. Because one of the tremendous misconceptions about the shift, and this is one of the things that comes from a lot of your doomsdayers who are all locked in on specific dates and what's going to happen on specific dates, such as the shifting of the north-south electromagnetic poles, or continents are going to sink, or floods, or whatever it is. One of the things that we learn here is we learn that these dates, these predictions, they don't mean anything. Another one of the things that we learn here, one of the things that is implicit in a lot of these kind of doomsday scenarios, is that the shift is all about something happening to us. Oh, what's going to happen on December 21st, 2012? There's something implicit in there. This is all about something that's going to be happening to us. Some event out there is going to be happening to us, and we're just going to be passive onlookers of that. Again, grave, grave misconception. This is not about something that's going to happen to us. This is about something in which we as human beings play a fundamentally important part. We play a part in this. And again, if any of the Mayan elders were here, they'd be nodding their heads and they'd be going, yep, we play an essentially important part of this, we human beings. This all starts in the hearts, in the minds, and in the spirits of each and every one of us. This is where it begins. And this is one of the wonderful things about this opportunity that we have right now. Because this allows us to do all kinds of things at the same time. I'm not going to say kill two birds with one stone anymore, because that's such a terrible analogy. I don't like the idea of killing birds. But this allows us to do a lot of different things at once. Even if everything I'm saying here is just a bunch of hogwash, there's a bunch of nonsense about the prophecies and everything. The bottom line here in terms of the message is these are all things that we should be doing anyway. Everything always begins with us focusing on our spirituality. Everything that and this is again where the human race and where Western civilization kind of became unplugged and became imbalanced. Western civilization lost its way when it became unplugged from spirit. Western civilization lost its way when it lost its connection to the rhythm and flow of life, of nature, of the forces of nature. That's where everything got unplugged. So for us to create this new world, it's necessary for us to get plugged in again. And we get plugged in again through the higher powers of our higher consciousness and our spirituality. Now, very often people say, oh, you know, that sounds great, nice, pretty words, but what does all that mean? What does all that mean in practical terms? And here is where, again, these messages, or this message, is so simple. You guys feeling the dryness of the air in this hot weather? I've been feeling it in my throat since Wednesday. And it's wonderful. I mean, I love this. It's like being in Tucson. Okay, a lot of fancy words. What does it all mean? Practically, what does all this mean? How do we re-plug into these things? How do we develop the higher powers of our higher consciousness? How do we develop the higher powers of our spirituality? Again, it is all exceedingly simple. Every spiritual tradition worth its salt on this planet for the last thousands and thousands of years, this is one thing that they have all agreed upon. They have all agreed upon the fact that we as human beings are at our spiritual peak when we experience life with certain feelings. And any spiritual teaching or training that any of you get involved in, whether you do this work yourself, whether you go to a teacher, however you do this, there's any number of different ways. We can do this any number of different ways, but we're always ending up in the same place. All of these spiritual traditions have always told us the same thing. They've told us that we reconnect with spirit. We create this vibration, spiritual vibration that we're talking about, by virtue of living life a certain way, by living life with certain feelings. And the feelings that we live life with are specifically, and I'm going to say this slowly and I'm going to say it twice, the feelings that we live life with, that tune us in, that get us on this proper spiritual vibration, feelings of peacefulness or relaxation. This is not a very relaxed world we're living in right now. If you look at the pace of it, not a very relaxed world we're living in right now. Feelings of peacefulness, feelings of joy, feelings of reverence for spirit, reverence for our spirit guides, reverence for this process of life, feelings of gratitude for all the blessings of this world, this multitude of blessings that we have in this world, and feelings of trust. By trust here, we're talking about trusting that if we live our life with the proper vibration, the vibration of peacefulness, joy, reverence, gratitude, and trust, if we live our life with this vibration, Spirit will manifest absolutely everything we need in this world or any other world. It's like a contract. Very much, I know that's a very crass way of putting it, very much like a contract. We live up to our part of the deal, living life with the proper vibration. Spirit's going to take care of us. Notice how the indigenous people, for thousands and thousands of years, lived their life with this vibration. They lived in harmony with Grandmother Earth. They lived in harmony with Spirit. These people were self-sustaining without any problem whatsoever. Spirit took care of them. The Earth took care of them. That's what we're striving for. That's what we need to get reconnected with. And we do it with our vibration and how we live, not only as individuals, but as a group. The other primary thing that I have been guided, my spirit guide is the Council of the Grandfathers. The Council of the Grandfathers introduced themselves to me a year ago in August when I was at a Mayan ceremonial event at Deer Mountain in California. They introduced themselves to me at a sunrise pipe ceremony one morning. They said, very simply, "Welcome to the Council of the Grandfathers." I heard the words in my head. I felt like a tractor beam had taken over my body energetically, and those words were in my head. "Welcome to the Council of the Grandfathers." And they told me, in answer to some doubts I was having at that time, they said, "You are doing perfectly." And at that point, I just broke into uncontrollable tears. Welcome to the Council of the Grandfathers. The other thing that I've been guided to do, I'm talking a little bit too much here today, the other thing I've been guided to do is I've been guided to talk less about this. We really don't need to talk about anything. We probably talked more about this than we really need to. I've been guided not to talk so much about this anymore, but yet to demonstrate how to do this through ceremony. And this is another one of the things that I learned from my friend Erick Gonzalez, the Mayan Elder, about the tremendous importance of ceremony in our lives when it comes to practicing our spirituality, enhancing our spirituality, developing our spirituality. The tremendous importance of ceremony. All of the indigenous people from all over the planet took ceremony was the most important thing in their life. And they spent lots and lots and lots of time in ceremony. The Mayans would be, or the Hopi would be in ceremony for 2 weeks nonstop, night and day, fasting, praying, singing in their kivas. And then they'd take 2 weeks off and they'd do it again for 2 weeks nonstop. The point in saying this is that this takes work, and it's something that it's important to do, and to do with volume, to do lots of. It's not just an hour on Sunday, and then the rest of the week we kind of live our life a completely different way. No, that's not going to get the job done. So I've been guided to teach how to do this through ceremony. Ceremony, very simply, is anything that we do for the purpose of connecting with Spirit, with our intent or with our intention. In other words, we're focused on Spirit. If we're not focused on Spirit, we lose the connection. So a ceremony is something we do that connects us to Spirit with our intent. One of the ways we practice ceremony is with prayer. And again, prayer is just simply talking to Spirit. I did a little bit of a prayer earlier today. Another one of the very significant ways that I practice ceremony is through the smoking of my sacred pipe. This is such a wonderful way of practicing ceremony, because there are so many. All I ever do with this pipe is pray. That's all I do. So this pipe becomes very, very infused with very, very powerful spiritual energy. This is a very, very powerful spiritual object, which is a medium, which is a pipeline, if you will, to Spirit. I'm not going to smoke it here today.